Well, that was peak. I don't know what happened there. Instagram doing me terrible, terrible things. We got cut off. I'm just going to have to send Mary a quick message. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. That was awful. What a fucking internet. What an absolute joke. What a joke. Right, there we go. Here she comes again. Here comes Mary.
Hi, I'm
I'm
back.
so sorry. I have no
Don't be
idea what
sorry.
happened.
Don't be sorry, Jamie. This is what it's like in the camp. I mean, if we manage to get internet, it cuts off in a second. So we are always being cut off and we're always losing connection because that's one of the things that happens when you live in, jungle conditions. There isn't an internet. So it's cool. And but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. As I say, I'm pretty overwhelmed at the moment. I'm here in Mesa in Thailand. It's just 10 past 10 at night. Um, and yeah, thank you to you all. I wish I could hear your voices as well, because if you had any idea how I feel, it's really amazing. And I'm watching it go up, and it's just thank you. So
Well, thank you for joining us. I mean, it's my pleasure, and as I've said to you on various different calls that we've had this week, I think the most exciting thing is for me is learning about you. Whenever I talk to you, I always leave the conversations feeling enlightened and inspired, because of just the person that you are, and to share that with the world is so amazing and so beautiful. So it's my pleasure to be here, really. I'm just the facilitator of whatever's going on. I'm just making it happen. That's all I can do.
well, I mean, me, it's not about me. Everything is about the people that that you help and then help you back, or you help, or they help you and then you help them back. So I think it's not about me, but I have had an interesting time of it, and and it's it's as I say, it's always, I love hearing people's stories and I love telling stories. And so, I'm just a bit overwhelmed again because it's not about me. It's
Well,
about
that's
everybody. And that's what I want everyone to know. It's about what you do, and then, what that brings to you. And it's always, I always wanted to make people laugh. And one of the things, when people are happy and they're happy because you can do something to make them happy, best thing in the world. So yeah, but I mean, you'll have to ask me questions because I don't know what to say.
well, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
what I think is amazing is the way your life has sort of gone from 1999, sort of pre 1999 and onwards. Um, you were a director, a second unit director, predominantly
I'll,
in
I'll, okay. Yes. So I was first assistant director in the films, and second unit director.
that's
So
right.
if people who work in the business know what that is, but if people who don't, it means that you stand by the director on set and you basically organize everything. And before the shoot, you have to organize the schedule and you have to break down the script and work out how long it's going to take to shoot, how many people you need in a scene. The main characters are obviously in the script, but a crowd of people are watching from afar. How many is that crowd? Well, we've got no money. Okay, so that crowd's very small, but they got to look like a lot. So you got to work out all those things. And then on the day, you have to make the crowd look believable, and you have to make them do the same thing every single time so that the continuity is right. So you're basically managing the sort of the framework of it all. And then, of course, all the actors who are in the center, and then, of course, all the crew and cast. So you learn everything. You learn every area. And I think I think I'm seeing some questions about, what exactly is the foundation. So maybe I should sort of say a little bit about that first and then
Go
go
for it.
back.
Go
Yeah.
wild. Absolutely.
So I mean, essentially, it all it all started in. Well, no, maybe I have to start sooner than that. Sorry, I'm trying to think how to the best way to go into it
The
because
timeline.
so the timeline. Well, I suppose I'll go from.
Well,
I don't know how long
so
how
in
long have we got? How long have we
1999,
got?
so in 1999,
Yeah.
you had been for some years working on film sets as a second unit director and as a
Yes,
first AD. And in
but
1999, you and a friend of yours set up the original foundation,
well,
the original charity,
it
right?
it goes back to the films that I was working on about how it happened because I did a film in 1993 called Before the Rain, and it was set in Macedonia. Well, it was shot in Macedonia, and it was about the war in Sarajevo. Uh, and I don't know if many people don't know about it so much now, but in the war in Sarajevo in Bosnia was sort of in Europe, about 2.5 hours by plane from London, and it was almost impossible that there was a siege of a major city. But it really it was shocking, and many people died and of starvation, and it really kind of woke people up to the fact that as Europe changed and as sort of dictatorships and different leaders left the stage, the sort of the breakdown of all those countries kind of caused internal strife. And so in this film, Before the Rain, was about a monastery and about a boy, but it was about a Bosnian girl who's kind of running away from her home because she's being attacked. And so that film was the sort of my first entry into a story that was about war. And I'd done other films, like a film in Russia, which was about journalists, but this was the first one about war. And then in 1996, there was a film called Welcome to Sarajevo that Michael Winterbottom directed with Woody Harrelson, and it basically was the story of a journalist who rescued some children who were in an orphanage that was blown up. And that again was filmed in Macedonia. And when we did Before the Rain, Macedonia was nobody really knew where it was, but of course now they do. And it's now, this northern and southern Macedonia, and, amazing place. So that second film, Welcome to Sarajevo, really, really showed me, what war was about. And, the Srebrenica, and seeing these massacres, and it was just on your doorstep. How can this be? How can this be? My parents were in the Second World War, and my grandparents were in the First War, and we lost people in those two wars, but we didn't think it would happen again, and the Falklands happened, but that was far away. But the war in Sarajevo was close. It was so close, in Croatia and Bosnia and Rez. So we suddenly sort of found ourselves, in the stories in the film. So in 1999, there was another issue that happened in Kosovo, and the Kosovans were forced to flee their homes, and they all came across the border into Macedonia. And my friend, Caroline Barron, who is producer, and we'd worked together on a film called Kama Sutra, directed by Mira Nair in India. And she saw, and she wanted to do something to help these refugees pouring across the border into Macedonia. And so she answered, sort of said, something you can do to help in the New York Times. And one of the things was the sort of, after food, shelter, and medicine, there was the psychological stress and the fact that, you had nightmares, you couldn't sleep, but you were safe, you had food, you had medicine, but the mind then starts to think about what you've lost. So she had this idea just to bring psychosocial relief, which was just to, fill your head with something else before you went to bed. And so she spoke to some of her film colleagues and studios and said, can we get some movies and we can take them out and show them to the refugee? And she called me right up and said, Mary, you know Macedonia, you've done 2 movies there. Can you come and do this with me? And I said, absolutely. And so I got on a plane. It was the day after my birthday, I think. And we were there. And neither of us had been in a refugee camp before. And there were 42,000 people in this. I mean, there were many camps, but there was one big one called Senekos, I think it was. And it was 42,000 people. And I remember standing on the top of a hill and looking down and thinking, and there were all these tents, and thinking, this is 42,000 people in this small space. This isn't meant to be. And, you know, when you're making a movie, you know, and you haven't got a lot of money, you're lucky if you get 50 extras, let alone 42,000, but you have to make it look like, you know, thousands. So I was also very aware of just the number of people in this space. And then, you know, we went to see them. We said, look, we're film people, but we're just going to bring you some movies. We're going to just do some outdoor movies to kind of just cheer you up. And then the funny thing was we got all these amazing movies, and then a lot of them were quite violent, you know, or all kind of Home Alone, or, you know, Asterix the Gaul, where, you know, he razes the city to the ground. So all things that they all were running from. So then it was trying to find the things that would really, really work. And I knew Richard Curtis, you know, who's the Mr. Bean producer, and I worked on Bridget Jones's Diary, and so I asked him if we could take Mr. Bean, you know, and he said, of course, yes. And then there was the old classics, you know, from Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, and the silent films. Am I talking too fast?
No,
Follow.
not
I'm
at
so
all.
sorry.
Not at all.
I do it very fast. I'm not sure. I see many
No,
people
you're
from different
perfect.
countries. So, and I know languages, you know, I can see Russian, and it's amazing. So it then, you know, it was really about how do you tell stories to people and just let them escape. And we met, the UNHCR were there at the time, and they said, you know, this is a great project. But what started it, I suppose, for me on the education side and us together as a group was, I saw a poster for landmines, and it was from UNICEF, and I thought, oh, well, if I could, you know, voice the picture and make this sort of animate this, then I could show it, and people who couldn't read or write could understand it. And that was kind of how we started, and I did that with Albanian and made it into sort of visual. So out of this, the UNHCR asked us if we'd take this project to Africa, which was the biggest refugee camps then. And there was like 300,000 refugees in Sierra Leone and Liberia. And we said, well, we're not a project, we're film people, we're just trying to help, you know. And they said, well, make yourselves a project. And so that's how Film Aid was born. Film Aid International, we called it, and that was how it was born. And you know, it went on, and it's still amazing now today, and has just partnered with Internews, and they're huge in Kenya. And we set up so after sort of 10 years, when was it? 2008, I was doing a fundraiser at BAFTA for Goma, and there'd been a volcano, and there were many refugees from the volcano. And I remember I was trying to raise money to help them as part of our Film Aid program. And I thought, well, how can I make it, you know, a good fundraiser? And I'd read this book, Q&A, which was about a sort of quiz show. And then Danny Boyle picked it up as a film and made it into, oh, no, sorry, I've completely lost the name. Slumdog Millionaire, sorry, I was thinking Bollywood, something. Slumdog Millionaire. And it was just the, you know, amazing film. And I asked him if we could show it as a fundraiser, and he said yes. And then, of course, it won the Oscars after that. So that was a very exciting thing, and we raised money. And it was at that event that Amnesty International and a friend of mine, Chloe Francis, who was also very much part of this journey, she helped with some funding for me, and then introduced us to a bank. It was called the Cooperative Bank, and they had some funds, and they wanted to help Asia because they'd heard about the uprisings in Burma. And that's how Burma came into the picture. But it was 2008. And within a second, just before the fundraiser, the world crashed. And no one had any money. And it was like, oh no, you know, I was sort of charging £100 a ticket or something. And it's like, I haven't got any money, you know, and I was like, oh no. So it all came at a bad time, but people were, you know, were still generous again. And then, of course, like now, the world was kind of thrown into chaos. So I always seem to manage to be trying to find these times of crisis. But the wonderful thing is that Danny Boyle, he and his producer, Chris Coulson, when I'd first gone out to help with Film Aid, I was up to work on 28 Days Later, which was a film that Danny directed. It's a very cool film. And at the same time, we got the opportunity to convert a huge 7-ton truck that the UNHCR had donated to us from Rwanda into a mobile cinema. And so I had to make a choice. And I thought, well, I've committed to doing this Film Aid, so I need to build a cinema. And so that's what happened. So it was a very lovely thing to come back with Danny later with the film. And, you know, everyone knows him now. And, you know, he's just amazing, amazing person. So, so I jumped back again to 2000. I built the mobile cinema, designed it so it could last anywhere and basically drive everywhere. And drove it up to Kakuma in Kenya. And which is where we started the sort of full-time programs, and it's still there now. And Stella Sug runs the programs there now in Dadaab and Kakuma and in the slums, and they're doing great.
One of the things that I find one of the things that I think I find most inspiring about this is you gloss over it so quickly. You're like, oh well, you know, I got offered this job, you know, with Danny Boyle to make 28 Days Later, but yeah, I chose Film Aid. But there's so much to that. There's so much like humanity to your choice in that, which is so inspiring, because you at that point made a decision to be of service to other people rather than to be of service to yourself. And that I find just like overwhelmingly powerful and overwhelmingly beautiful. And you don't give yourself enough credit for that often. You often go, oh, it's nothing to do with me. It's not me. And it's like, well, no, because we need people like you in this world to inspire us to make the right choices. So I just wanted to jump in there and just let you know you're doing great.
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a good person in the sense of like, I don't think like I got to go out and do. It's just about, I think I like to make people comfortable and happy, you know, and I don't know where it comes from. I think when I was little, I used to like to kind of put a long dress on and perform in front of people, like, but I to make them laugh, you know. So I don't know. I think everybody's got it. Everybody wants to help people inside, but you know, sometimes it's difficult to have the opportunity. I mean, one thing, the refugees that I work with and have been honored to be able to visit, they will invite me into their bamboo house, and they will give me food, and they will give me their ration and their food and a lot of it. And then they will go without so that I will have. Now, I don't want to take the food because it's their food, they need it. But they are offended if I don't take it because they want to give too. And I think one of the things that's really tough for many people that I work with is that they want to give very much. They're very generous, but they only have what they have, and they'll give it to you. They'll give everything they have because they're very hospitable people. And that's the hard thing about when you become a refugee and you lose everything and you have nothing to give, and you become someone who you get this label of refugee, and it's like everyone is a normal person before they're a refugee, and it's very, because there's now, 18 million? I think there were 30 million when we started Film Aid, and I think and I remember Caroline Barron, who's the founder of Film Aid, she said, we hope we won't need to be around for very long because, the refugee situation will be resolved. And now it's worse than ever. And obviously, every situation is different. The situation in Lesbos, which has just happened, it's overwhelming. And it's only when you lose everything that I think you can really, really know, what it's like to lose. And, I'm lucky because I have a brain, and I have my health, and I have, a sort of enthusiasm for this incredible world we live on, this planet, and the people in it. And I think, one of the things when I first came to the refugee camp was just the inability to see what actually you do have, and what, they used to say to me, I know we're in a prison and we can't see, but actually you can see out. Nobody can take your mind. Nobody. It's your mind and it's your creativity. And I think that's what, the whole point of what we do is that your creativity is yours and no one can take that from you. They can take your house, they can take your possessions, they can take your everything. But, they can't take you. And it's, I think that's the thing about being able to kind of capture that, because a lot of people, they give up as well. And they also lose their ability to make a choice or to think. Sometimes I'll say, do you think there should be blue color or green color, for the background or something on a set or something? And they'll say, oh, it's up to you, miss. Because when you're sort of in a situation where you are beholden, where you are like, you can't step out of line or you can't complain because you are grateful, Yeah, and it's really difficult because everybody's truly grateful. But as you said, I think in one of the things, these camps have been here 30 years. And when you've been in a situation for 30 years and you really don't know how to get out of it, you're used to just saying, yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the thing is, to be able to give is a privilege. It's to be able to give someone something. It's all, that old saying, it's better to give than receive. And it is. Because although it's gorgeous getting things, it's lovely when you get a surprise or someone gives you something special. But at the end of the day, the best things are when you to somebody else and you see their face and they love it. Of course, you can buy presents and things they hate, and then it, and then you get it back next Christmas. But it's like.
So
believe all these people are writing in there's German and there's I can't.
German, Dutch, Russian.
Yeah, there's Dutch,
Italian,
Russian, Saudi Arabia.
So,
this is what is really blowing me away. I have to say, this global reach, it's phenomenal. Thank you, Jamie. Really.
No. It's not. This is not me. People who have joined us are the people who have joined us, and I'm incredibly grateful that they are here. I'm so grateful. For those of you who have just joined us, my name is Jamie Campbell Bauer. This is the delightful Mary Soan of the Sermpanya Foundation, and I've got a link down the bottom there that you can click to learn more about the foundation, to donate, and to buy some merchandise to support Mary. We're talking about the foundation and Mary's life and all things human related. So
Vietnamese. Oh, we got Vietnam.
2011, Mary.
Hi from Thailand. Yeah. So I suppose. Sorry, Jamie. What did you just ask me? Sorry, I jumped in on there.
So in 2011, you went out to make sort, correct?
Yes. So basically, we got a small amount of money. Some money from this bank to go out and do a piece to raise awareness of what was happening in Myanmar. And at that time, it was Burma. And at that time, Aung San Suu Kyi was under house arrest. So it was a closed country, and it was still under sanctions. And, everyone was hoping there'd be some kind of democratic elections at some point. But at that point, she was still under house arrest, and she was living in a house sort of opposite a lake. And the junta, were fully in charge at that time. The military, it was a military government. So we went out to the refugee camps, and I was able to make a sort of film, which was then shown at BAFTA to try and raise awareness of the issues facing these refugees, and how do we actually manage to get them back to their country. So I don't know, there's a map on some of the pictures on the GoFundMe page. Is a map to sort of show you where all of the border. So those who don't know this area, because many people don't really familiar with it, it's the western side of Thailand. So between India and Thailand sits Myanmar. And Myanmar is actually the old name. Before Burma, it was called Myanmar. So it's interesting because Burma itself, was under British rule for a long time. And it was called Burma because the Burmese were the ethnicity. But along the border where we are, there is different states with different ethnicities. And so you've got Kachin State, Shan State, Chin State, Kayan State, Karenni State, Karen State, Mon State. And most of the refugees who are in the camp come from Karen State and Karenni State. And when they had to flee their village, they ran basically across, and then there's a river, the river Salween, which divides the two countries. So it's very much a geographic space. And, like all conflicts, the main thing for a refugee and what refugee means, is somewhere to seek refuge. And a refugee is someone who's crossed an international border, and a displaced person is someone who has run away from inside their country. So there were also displaced people inside the country who had to move. And so I made this short film, and then on the back of that was able to come back and do a pilot program, which was to teach 45 refugees how to make films. And so it's quite a difficult process here. It's quite, it's quite a sensitive place. And so we did it very much as an educational, it's very much about the educational side of things. And we worked in 3 different languages, in Po Karen, Skor Karen, and Burmese, because each ethnicity has its own ethnic languages. And the writing is all that beautiful round writing. I mean, I'm learning how to write Burmese, and it's so gorgeous. It's all circles. But of course, it makes it very hard, because even if you learn how to read and write, you don't know what you're actually saying. And it's a very different language to ours. So we made 3 films, one on drugs, one on HIV/AIDS, and one on alcohol. And these are the choices they made, because basically, what is the things that interest you? But what has normally happened before, if anybody does think, it was normally just in a sort of documentary way. And the thing is, because I come from drama, I went to Goldsmiths College, and I was the first person to ever get a degree in drama and French, because when I was doing it, drama wasn't a recognized subject, and so they put it with another subject. So,
it's
so
still,
I did.
Still not in a lot of places.
So
people turn their nose up at it.
Well, it just was amazing. So anyway, I got my degree in drama and French, and I did French drama. So I did Genet and Beckett and all of those at university. But what I don't, I didn't come from documentary background. I came from drama. The different films I've done. A lot of people, what they've seen. They've seen Narnia, one, Rich in the Wardrobe, and Pearl Harbor, the big ones, and Bridget Jones, but then the smaller ones. It's a wonderful one called Institute Benyamenta. If you ever see that with Mark Rylance, it's just, incredible. But anyway, you can see all the films on the IMDb
So
website. But
Google,
so basically, I can
Google Mary Soan and check out the IMDb. So you go to Burma, you go to Myanmar, you go to Thailand in 2011, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you had the express intention of being there for 3 months. That's it. You sort of came in to do the pilot program. You said, I'll be here for 3 months. I'll set this up, and then I'll sort of go elsewhere.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I'll set it up, and then I'll be able to find somebody to run it if it's going to be something that we can continue to do and we can raise the money for. So yes, it wasn't. I went. Actually, I mean, I was out there for kind of, I think, 5 months to start with, and then I showed the films that we made to the consortium of NGOs that work at the end in the refugee camps. And one of the heads of it, TBC, who are the Thai border the border consortium, and they provide all the food, shelter for the refugees. They asked if we would be interested in making a film for them for kitchen gardens, and so that's how the first sort of great, and then I sort of went back to England, thought, right, I've got to now raise the money to come back to make this kitchen gardens film. But in the middle of, so I did, I managed to raise some money, and then I was introduced to Mandy Corso, who was the one who, by our director in London, Ilian, and it was Mandy who then got the incredible board together, who set up Film Aid Asia. So that's how Film Aid Asia started. So then I went back and I wrote the script, but I was presented with these farmers. And they came and they were sitting all very obediently, and they're just, most of the people are from farms. The older people had to run away and leave their farms. So they're not educated, they're not literate, they haven't, they maybe had basic schooling. And I remember the guy, Dave Brown, who's now in Australia somewhere, hello Dave, he said, Mary, I don't think they're going to get it. It's just too, script. And I said, trust me, they will. He said, we'll see, anyway. He was astonished because, after 3 days, I'd managed to get them completely understanding what we were doing, and it was all through performing and play acting and pretending to be, and it was the most incredible thing. Just incredible to just see. He likened it to The Awakening. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. It was about a film where the sort of people were in this state after drugs, and then they sort of come back to life again through cognizant.
Well, that's the part, I think. So,
but anyway, it was just
that moment that you realize, and I think it's, being a performer and being an actor and being somebody who for me, story and humanity are the most important thing. I think it sounds like it's in that moment that you realize that we all have this unified thing that exists amongst us, which is that we all share in the human experience. And that's always what connects us to any film that we watch, and to any story, and any book that we read or anything like that. And that's the most powerfully inspiring thing, I think, that we can share. So in that moment, you kind of, see, it seems that that was highlighted, and that's beautiful. So let's go back. So okay, so you make this film, and then you stay. You stay in.
Well, what happened was then
you didn't leave.
I didn't. I did leave for a second, because that after we finished writing the script, I then got an email from Caroline to say, Mary, I need you to come to Haiti, because the earthquake had just happened. So the earthquake in Haiti happened in 2010. And this was at the beginning of, this was, I think, February, March. I was, no, when was it? Anyway, it's sorry if I'm getting but anyway, I had to go from Mesot to Port-au-Prince in a day. And I have to say, I don't even know, I didn't get any jet lag because it took me 30 hours to get there. I went from Mesot to Bangkok, from Bangkok to London, from London to New York, from New York to Florida, from Florida to Port-au-Prince.
And that must have been
solid.
Just shocking.
And
when you landed there.
But I didn't have any jet lag because it was like a whole day I lost in my life. But I must have got it back somehow because the world turns and you can't get off it. So I think, I don't know quite how, but anyway, so with just, you know, coming from there and then to Haiti, which was incredibly, I mean, everything had fallen down. It was a month after the earthquake, and the, you know, the emergency teams had been in and to make some films with IRC, and they were more, you know, we were asked to make films about, sorry, I'm seeing all things popping up on like your documents, you know, if you lose everything, so if your house falls down and your husband is killed and your bank has fallen down as well, it's like, how do you prove that the land that the rubble is on is yours? And this was, you know, hugely traumatic for people because not only did they lose everything, but then you have to prove who you are because you lose your identity with it. And that's another thing I think for refugees is about identity. And that's another area where it's so important. You know, they were saying in Lesbos, all their records were burned. You know, how people are scared to be identified when they've been in a regime that identity means you can be found. So, for instance, a lot of our refugees, they don't want to be identified because they just want to be invisible. But the thing is, then they lose their human rights. Like, you must register your birth of your child, for instance. And we've made a film with that. So it's the sort of thing about civil documentation and the right to have an identity, because that gives you a right to the things. Anyway, so I was in Haiti then for like 6 months. And then we were sort of raising money in England, but Haiti was, you know, was still shaking. It was still tremors. It was quite terrifying, but amazing people again, amazing. And we screened films, you know, and we made films there in the rubble, and we screened in the rubble, and that was quite extraordinary. But anyway, then came back from that, and then had to earn a little bit of money. I didn't have any money then by that time, so I'd run out of my stash, and then went to LA for a bit, did a bit of script writing, and then came back, and then that was it for, we made the Kitchen Garden film, and then I haven't left since.
You haven't left.
But again, I didn't plan, you know, so, but it's just been, it's very complicated, and, you know, when you're working with vulnerable people, I mean, you know, from a film set where everybody has to do what you tell them as a first AD, you know, you're commanding the set and you're doing what the director needs you to do, and what the, you know, and so everybody knows what to do. You know, they all, you know, when you go to a set, day one, everyone knows what to do. Yeah, and you go on and you do you do your thing.
I mean, most of the time.
What I mean is that they don't say, you know, here's a camera, how do you use it? You know,
Right,
they know how to use it already. Right, so I don't mean acting. I don't mean acting.
No.
I mean the crew know what to do because they're you know, if they
go, what am I doing? What's going on? Where am I? What am I supposed? What are my lines?
You know
I didn't sleep very well last night.
No, it's I know. I mean, an actor doesn't necessarily know what they're doing because they kind of find it as well when they're there and with the others as well. So but the crew have to, because, you know, you can't turn up and go, well, what's this? You know, a piece of kit or whatever.
I want to.
So
I want to, Mary, lovely. I want to quickly.
Yes.
I maybe want to wrap this up in a second, but so we've got such a beautiful picture of kind of where you came from, how you ended up where you are, and the stories that you want to tell, and the message that you have behind the foundation that exists now. And I think that that's the most powerful thing. And I often, when you and I talk, I think it's very easier. It's much easier for me because I have a bird's eye view of the work that it is that you do, and actually kind of the impact that that has. And I want to just tell people and briefly talk about the fact that the films that you make, you know, and the films that you screen, sometimes they are, you know, entertainment based films to lighten, to sort of make, you know, to make people happy. But also the movies that you make within the camp, as I said before, Instagram very rudely cut us off. First of all, Instagram just got burnt. Before Instagram cut us off, what was, you know, was that some of the films that you make and a lot of the movies that you make in the camp are educational films for people who
Yeah.
are
Well,
in this
they all.
situation. And
Yes. Yes.
and that's so powerful because, and I'll say this to the people who are watching now, it's Mary's the films and the work that Mary does, you know, not only, like I said before, do they go and screen these films in parts of the camp, but also they put them in the clinics that are both in and outside of the refugee camp. And so, for instance, at the moment for Mary's next project, which we'll just circle back to in a minute, but Mary's next project is, you know, she wants to do something about the environment, but also the next thing as well is to do with COVID at this current time. And so if you're sat in a clinic, I think, you know, waiting for a test for something and there's a movie there screening about how to stay safe during this time, because obviously these people are vulnerable. I mean, we're all vulnerable. And if you're older, you're particularly vulnerable. There is where the information comes from. So the work that Mary does and the work that the foundation does is incredibly vital to actually like saving people's lives. You know, the impact that the work that you do genuinely saves people's lives, because it does empower them and it gives them knowledge in order to be able to go and act autonomously with that knowledge in hand. And that's something that I want to sort of give to people and for them to think about when you're thinking about donating or buying a piece of merchandise. I think it's about being able to, for Mary to continue to do this work that genuinely helps people, that genuinely saves lives, and that needs to be continued. And the reason that we're here, first and foremost, is, you know, during this time of, you can't hear me? Has my sound gone? Can anybody hear me? Can anyone hear me? Can anybody hear me? Hello? If you can hear me, could you just say yes? Oh, you can hear me. Oh, Mary can't hear me. Okay. Mary, lovely. I'm gonna write a message. Okay, so okay, thank you so much for everyone saying that they can. So okay, Mary's gonna go now. Okay, Mary, thank you so much for this. Thank you. No, thank you so much. I'm going to wrap this up with everyone. I'll call you afterwards. I'll call you in 10 minutes. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I'm sorry that Mary that we had another technical issue, you know, such as the state of technology. Yeah, I'm so blessed to know Mary, so blessed to be a part of this foundation, so blessed to be able to share that with you. And if you do have if you have £1 or $1, or you can donate and get some merchandise, this money that's going to Mary will directly fund the work that it is that she's doing, and it's vital for her because at this time so much funding has fallen through. I was talking to another friend of mine 2 days ago about the Children's Trust Foundation, which I'll be talking about over Christmas, but we were talking about how many charities have gone under during this time because the people that a lot of charities used to go to for support are now not willing to help. So it's now down to us, down to people like you and me. So yeah, if you can give, please do. It directly helps people. I've been there, I've seen it. Mary's amazing, the foundation is amazing, and the people there are amazing. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have this. My fear of Instagram lives have now completely disappeared, so I'm quite smug. And it's yeah, it's a joy. I hope everyone's safe. I hope everyone's well. Much love. Thank you. Goodbye.